which was released in select theaters October 12th, 1990. And Troll 2, of course, is the sequel to, nothing really. Yes, the story of this movie's distribution is very interesting. This movie's original title was Goblins. However, they could not find any distributors who wanted to carry this movie because it was such shit. So they needed something else, something to carry it. A secret weapon, so to speak, something that would get this into theaters. Yeah, upon screening this movie, distributors decided that no one was going to see this piece of shit, so they weren't going to bother. So the producers needed something extra. So they decided to lie. They renamed and marketed this movie as if it were a sequel to a more popular movie, piggybacking on the success of that particular film. And that particular film was Troll, which was released in theaters January 17th, 1986. So did this trickery work? Well, obviously it did. Troll 2 was released, and it will forever live in infamy. It's called Troll 2. But as I had mentioned, it was originally titled Goblins, and it's about goblins. It's not about trolls. There's no trolls in it. In fact, no one even ever mentions the word troll in this movie at all. So yeah, it's about goblins. Goblins are the antagonist in this movie, but not just any goblins. Vegetarian goblins? Yes, in a bizarre twist, the goblins are vegetarians, but they still live off of human flesh. They just turn the human flesh into plant matter first by making the humans eat cursed food. I mean, your guess is as good as mine, which is pretty weird, but it is a rather interesting and original concept. It's just too bad it happens to be the plotline of a very shitty movie. And when I say it's shitty, I mean it's really shitty, but it's also batshit crazy. The acting is absolutely out of control, the dialogue is putrid, and the plotline, though it's interesting, is still a little far-fetched. That's exactly the reason why people love it so much today. And it's not because it broke any boundaries in cinematography. No, they love it because it's shit. And when you watch it, you can't help but laugh, even though you're not supposed to. This is a horror movie, after all, and in recent years, the production team has claimed that they intended to make it a horror comedy. But I'm not buying that. They knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't trying to make a horror comedy, and director Claudio Fragasso, who went under the pseudonym Drake Floyd for some reason, I mean, would you want your name on this? Was intending on making this the next great horror movie, but you see how it turned out. So it's a horror movie called Troll 2, and it's supposed to be a sequel to a movie that has nothing to do with it. And it's not about trolls at all. Instead, it's about vegetarian goblins. Is everybody with me so far? If you haven't seen this movie, I recommend that you do so, just to say that you did. It is kind of a good time, an agonizingly good time, because this movie is loaded with batshit craziness. You'll laugh even though you're not supposed to. You'll cry because you'll wonder what you're doing with your life watching such rubbish. And get this, in some countries it was released as Monster Valley. Why didn't you just call it that to begin with? Oh well. Troll 2 will forever be a stain on our brains, and people just love it because it's so terrible. And even though it's one of the world's worst movies, it still has a huge cult following. And like most movies with a huge cult following, this movie really didn't gain its fame until its VHS release. It was first released on VHS in 1992 by Columbia TriStar Home Video, and this movie, as shitty as it is, actually has a second VHS release. It was released again in 1998 by Polygram Home Video. Yes, for some reason, this was released twice on VHS. The Columbia TriStar distribution, if you can even find it, goes on average for $100. And the Polygram Home Video distribution, well, I don't know what it goes for because I can't find a single listing for it. Yes, in the realm of VHS collecting, Troll 2 is a hot ticket item and is the heat to beat. And I have no idea what that means, but it sounds cool.